just you, or are there other workers there? Other stylists?
There's two other girls that work part-time.
Okay. Welcome back, Jamie.
Thank you.
Hey, Jamie.
Hello.
How are you?
Living the dream.
Okay. Every time I see you, your hair gets longer.
I know. I don't know what to do. Once we go green, I might just, I don't know, keep it.
I doubt it.
I can't. My husband said he was going to grow the afro again. I said, yeah, right. Whatever.
Jamie's gonna cry at the sound of that buzzer.
I think my hair's been this long since middle school.
That's crazy.
I have lots of extra hair ties and barrettes for you, Jamie.
Yeah, I need a rubber band soon for my ponytail.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Miss Craig?
I'm doing great.
Very good to hear. It was hot today. Whew.
Yeah, it was. It was a hot one.
Faith, I've been thinking about you. Are you like booking appointments left and right now?
Yeah, next week is booked already.
Hi, man.
Friday's booked, Saturday's booked. We're booked.
All
Yeah.
right.
It's a wonderful thing.
Yes. Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to getting my hair cut.
You and everybody else out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna text you after this meeting, Faith.
Okay, sounds like a plan. How are you doing, Israel?
I'm doing, you know what? I'm doing well. I had to change my shirt because I slept through the first one today, but it's good.
Temperature.
Oh yeah, it's hot out here, but things are looking up. All right, y'all. Bernie, how are we?
I think we're looking good.
Okay. Mayor Chris, any word on Ms. Davis?
Yes, I just spoke to her in person. I think she's ready to go. I just don't think she's logged in yet.
Okay. Let me see what I have.
Have you heard from Councilor Soto? Is he?
I have not heard anything from Councilor Soto.
Councilor Soto sent an email that he was going to be working this evening.
Okay.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, we'll just have to excuse him. That's fine. Mr. Harris, did we have any public comments?
Maybe.
Called ahead.
I was contacted by one person who had asked about speaking, and I asked her to reply whether or not she wanted to do public comment. She didn't. I had not seen a reply from her yet, but I have not. But I did give her the telephone number to call in. So.
Okay, great. Hey there, Joe.
Hey, Izzy. How are you? Hi, counselors, Mayor.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Okay. Well.
Chris.
Hello. Go right ahead. In that case, I am going to go ahead, if it's all right with everybody, and call this meeting of the Council of the City of Lancaster for June 23rd to order. So if you happen to be watching from home, it's just me here, but I have returned to council chambers. Nature is healing, and we're looking forward to see how things go in the future. Forgive me again, I'm going to go ahead and dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance this evening, and we'll move right into calling the roll of members. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Arroyo.
Here.
Ms. Baker.
Here.
Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz.
Here.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Here.
Mr. Soto. And President Smith-Waddell.
Here. Councilor Soto is excused this evening. approval of the minutes for June 9th, 2020.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Great, got a motion and a second. Council comments.
I do have a comment, President.
Go ahead.
I would like to make a correction related to the Pennsylvania Human Relations comment. I basically belong to Lancaster County Advisory Council to the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. So now you see how hard and trying to put that all in one sentence. So that's basically what I wanted to make a correction on.
Okay. Well, Councilor Diaz, I think it would be appropriate to make a motion to amend the minutes here on the floor to include the correction that you just mentioned.
Either that, Mr. President, or I provide a clarification in the minutes of this meeting, reflecting the prior meeting.
Okay. Do you need a motion for that, or?
No, I can simply add that to the minutes of this meeting.
Okay. Please do so in that case. Thank you, Councilor Diaz, for bringing that up, and for, good God, trying to remember that whole title every time. Any other council comments on the minutes? All right. Hearing none, and with Councilor Diaz's clarification, have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I'll say aye. I wasn't sure if Bernie was going to call us.
Yeah, sorry, I should have said Mr. Harris. That's my bad. My apologies.
That's true.
We can do this as a voice vote by affirmation also.
Okay, great.
Just to mix it up.
Yeah.
Great. That feels like unanimous passage of the minutes. So we're going to move right along. Proclamations, honors, awards, and resolutions of recognition, Mr. Harris.
We have none tonight, Mr. President.
All right, moving on to our first public comment period reserved for those who have called ahead. Did we have anyone call ahead, Mr. Harris?
I was contacted by one individual and provided her the phone number. I have not heard whether or not she planned to call back. And,
okay.
And at this point, I guess we can give her 30 seconds.
Hmm? All right. Hearing none, I'm going to proceed to the next agenda item, which are reports requested by council. This evening we have the Public Art Advisory Board annual report as presented by Ms. Jo Davis. Jo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President. I am going to attempt to share my screen and show you this presentation.
How do I do that?
Okay. Okay, just bear with me, people. It's my first time. Okay, I think you should be able to see an image, right? Yep. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. All right. Good evening, counselors. As the public art manager for the city of Lancaster, I'm honored to be here to report to you on the activities of Lancaster Public Art. So my last presentation to you, you might remember it was back in April of 2019. And this evening, I'll show you what we've been up to since then as we continue to implement our 10-year plan for public art. In case you haven't brushed up on the plan lately, here's some key points. Our mission is to focus on equity, livability, and excellence to promote neighborhood connectivity, create meaningful collaborations, and magnify Lancaster's distinct sense of place. Our vision is for Lancaster to be a city distinguished by public artworks and engaged communities. The plan also acknowledges that as a tiny organization within city government, in-depth community partnerships are critical to its success. Within the plan, our focus areas guide the development of new public art projects. And I'm going to start this presentation with a review of our projects over the past 14 months. And then we'll focus on ways that we've been implementing the plan beyond creating new public art projects. So the first project on the list is Crystal and First. Our Artful Intersections program got underway, and we piloted our first one at the intersection of Crystal and First Streets in Southwest Lancaster. We partnered with West Lancaster Jewels Neighborhood Group, and for months, we worked closely with the group leaders and artist Justin Jones to facilitate the street mural, ensuring that the design and implementation was community-led. We learned how when a public art project becomes the central programming of a neighborhood event, it can augment the connection and pride that has been fostered by an active neighborhood group. Since then, Sherwin-Williams has partnered with us to supply paint for future Artful Intersections. Design work was finalized for Culloden Park. Landscape architects at RGS continued work with artist Matthew Geller. Geller has created a playground fence inspired by the running waterway beneath the park. And also he's designed several seating areas too. So you all may remember from last year's presentation that the renovation of Culloden Park was the impetus for Selena Almanzar's project Art Pop. In the summer of 2018, Almanzar's art projects at Culloden Park started conversations with neighbors about the upcoming park renovation. Among other things, her conversations informed the park design and worked to establish more of a sense of ownership of this public space among the neighbors. In 2019, we partnered with SOE to continue Art Pop. Working with Church World Services, Language Beyond Borders, this time we integrated multiple languages into the project's promotional materials, and we hired interpreters to be on hand at the larger events. Additional partners in this project include Water Street Mission, Lancaster Rec, and the Boys and Girls Club. Selena's project turned the fence of Culloden Park into an open-air community gallery. The temporary mural on the wall of Water Street Mission she created in 2018 had begun to wash away, and in the fall of 2019, she worked with neighbors to create new semi-permanent panels that these neighbors painted directly on to create the artwork with Selena. As you know, our organization is working to transform Water Street into an active, multimodal corridor that extends near County Park. Please forgive the low-res image, and it's also inspirational. It's not imagery of anything we're actually working on. There will be many opportunities to include public art in this corridor that will attract users, enhance the sense of place, and encourage movement along the corridor. Stacy Levy, a renowned environmental artist, has been brought on board to work with the Water Street Project engineer team. Levy will work to integrate ways that artists can be creating artwork and integrating into some of the stormwater infrastructure and landscape. Her emphasis is on telling the story of our underground waterways. Additionally, Stacy will be working to map out areas for public art within the Bureau of Stormwater's Green-It Plan. To start the planning process for Water Street, a multi-year project, our first community outreach event was at Open Streets, an event that takes place on Water Street. So with in-kind help from our partners at Atomic Design, we created a scaled-down version of Water Street on fabric that spanned 7 table lengths. To encourage engagement, we put toy cars and little people and trees and things on that map so that kids might want to stay and play, and parents would linger and conversation could begin. And we asked people to share their hopes, their fears, and wonders about the project, and to write down suggestions about what could go where. The fabric map continued to be an engagement tool. And I want to point out this example of how public art can really facilitate civic engagement, because not everyone goes to civic meetings, as you guys probably can attest to. So when we integrate public art into outreach about significant projects, we meet people where they are and we encourage participation in a meaningful way. We're not the only organization creating public art projects, and nor should we be expected to. In order to meet the high demand for public art from city stakeholders, we must provide avenues to encourage others. We've finalized our temporary art policy, or also known as TAP, which will allow for community members and artists to install artwork on city property. Our next step is to work with artists and community to develop an accessible permitting process. This is the latest rendering of Yule Plaza. You guys will remember that the Public Art Advisory Board worked with council on the renaming of the public property from Lancaster Square to Barney Yule Plaza. Lancaster Public Art, we've continued to work with landscape designers Mannheim Reichel on the design for Yule Plaza. This includes working with experts to include infrastructure that can support future public art installations within the plaza. And we're also assessing more opportunities for public art within the plaza. We've drafted a website that will keep stakeholders updated and in the know about all things relating to the plaza project. And we're looking forward to making that public very soon. Additional work in Yule Plaza that you guys have definitely heard of. Following the guidance of our strategic plan, we assisted the Lancaster Parking Authority in conducting an artist search and selecting a highly accomplished bilingual architect-artist duo, Roberto Bejar and Rosario Marquardt, to partner with Hamel Architects on creating artwork for the facade of the new library garage in Yule Plaza. So an update for you all on that project. In February, the Parking Authority and Roberto Rosario signed a contract that incorporated the community engagement conditions dictated by council. We have begun planning with the artists for their community engagement visits, and we're gearing up to start in the spring. And then due to COVID-19 emergency declaration, the art facade and associated engagement have largely been on hold over the past 3 months. So at this point, it's necessary for us to regroup and adjust the schedule. Meanwhile, in those 3 months that the community engagement has been put on hold, we were able to pivot and focus on the immediate needs at hand. In late March, immediately after the onset of COVID, there was critical messaging that needed to be dispersed. Working collaboratively with Two Dudes Painting Company and staying within the safety parameters set up by Governor Wolf, we created Public Service Announcement Temporary Mural Project, or PSA Temporary Murals, as a way to provide essential communication in a creative way that could boost community morale in scary times, provide points for connectivity within the city, and also paid opportunity for local artists. Out of a pool of 73 local artists, a selection team of arts professionals had the tough job of narrowing it down to the final 10 artists that received commissions. The artists were given a framework of the types of messages they could convey: public health, safety, and mental health, and they came up with messaging on their own that they wanted to use in the murals. To determine the locations, we used a combination of internal staff knowledge, data, and community input from neighborhood leaders. Then another pivot. When demonstrations in the wake of the murder of George Floyd began, protesters in Lancaster needed a place to get their feelings out, as well as their ideas for change and their demands for racial justice. In the summer of 2018, we had put up community banner boards to gather public input about the planning of